The proceeding will start shortly.
Right, order. We start with questions to the Secretary of State for Science, Innovation and Technology, Barry Sheerman.
Question number 1, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Of course, I speak to colleagues on this important topic all of the time. Our science and technology framework is designed to ensure that we don't just challenge university rankings, but we translate them into material benefits for the United Kingdom. And my department has a number of programmes breaking down the barriers between universities and businesses, which have contributed to the nearly 90,000 interactions reported between universities and businesses in 21 to 22. This is a 5% increase over the previous year.
Barry Sheerman.
Mr. Speaker, would the Minister pay very great attention since we've had the impact assessment of universities globally? Many of the new and more innovative smaller universities have outstripped the more conventional and better-known universities. Indeed, the Huddersfield Health Innovation Campus is leading in this. Would she agree that there is real opportunity in jobs in the future of that innovation partnership, and shouldn't there be more incentives to make those innovations come faster rather than slower?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I agree with the Honourable Member in terms of the importance of focusing on innovation and collaboration in this area. The University of Huddersfield received £1.63 million this year through the Higher Education Innovation Fund to support knowledge exchange and collaboration with business. And I'm sure that we can write to the Honourable Member with more details.
Chair of the Select Committee, Greg Clark.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. On the 1st of January this year, the UK became again an associate member of the Horizon Europe programme and Copernicus. Given our delayed start, can the Secretary of State say what steps she is taking to encourage participation by UK universities and businesses?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and my right honourable friend is absolutely right. I welcome the news shared, in fact, just last week by Commissioner Ivanova, who showed the early signs of uptake are absolutely excellent. Some programmes indeed are projecting over 50% increase. We're not being complacent. We have launched a comprehensive international marketing campaign. We have introduced pump priming scheme with the British Academy, and we have already started on roadshows.
Minister Chilmore.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, British research is amongst the best in the world. We are not so good at turning our brilliant research into the growth our economy so desperately needs. That requires collaboration between businesses and universities throughout the long years of discovery, testing, adoption and commercialisation. Funding science in chunks of 3 years or less does not help. So universities, businesses, researchers have all welcomed Labour's commitment to set 10-year budgets for funding bodies and key institutions. Will the Secretary of State agree, or is that too much to expect from a short-term sticking plaster government?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And whilst the words sound good, it is this government that is delivering on our plan. Just a few months ago, we published our response to the spin-out review, and we are the government that is investing record levels of investment, £20 billion in research and development. This is a government that is not just talking the talk, but is actually delivering.
Gavin Newlands.
Number 2, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Madam Deputy Speaker, with your permission, I'll answer this together with question 11. Our priority is to ensure that everyone, regardless of background, can pursue the exciting opportunities in STEM, and that ambition fully extends to the honourable members' constituents in Paisley, Renfrewshire and Livingston.
Gavin Newlands.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. New data from Times Higher Education reveals that female science undergraduates are twice as likely to experience sexism as their peers on non-science courses. Many reported being patronised or belittled by their male classmates, with this behaviour routinely going unchallenged by staff. So what steps is the Minister taking to address the pervasive culture of sexism in STEM so that more women can be encouraged to pursue jobs in that important sector?
Madam Deputy Speaker, a key priority for this government is ensuring that everybody, regardless of background, faces no discrimination and can pursue an occupation in STEM. I'm pleased to report that in apprenticeship starts this year, the number of STEM apprenticeships up by women was up by almost 8%. And since 2016, a total of almost 8 million has been awarded to 152 remarkable women role models to help them grow their businesses and innovation.
Hannah Bardell.
For the vaccine firm in my Livingston constituency, Valneva, do life-saving and pioneering work, and nearly 50% of their working population are women. They do brilliant work to encourage women into STEM careers. Would the Minister consider coming to Livingston, visiting Valneva and meeting with them and myself to see firsthand the fantastic work that they do?
Hear, hear.
Yes, and I commend the Honourable Lady for the very successful and female opportunity-giving firm in her constituency. I'm in Scotland later this month and I'll try and visit her.
James Gray.
Deputy Speaker, there can be no better example of businesses encouraging STEM education right through school and university, and for both men and women, than the Dyson Corporation, Sir James Dyson, in my own constituency in Malmesbury. Will the Minister warmly join me in warmly thanking and congratulating Sir James Dyson on his contribution of £6 million recently to Malmesbury Primary School, which will also be available for all of the children in Malmesbury to promote STEM at the heart of my constituency?
I warmly congratulate the Dyson Foundation in that. That is a fantastic example of philanthropy. Maths education, as my honourable friend will know, is a key building block to this. We're currently consulting on establishing a National Academy of Mathematical Science backed by £6 million of funding. That consultation ends this Sunday and I hope many honourable members will respond.
Stephen Metcalfe.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Improving diversity in STEM is not just the right thing to do, it is vital to our future success. Diversity brings new ways of thinking and a better understanding, a new approach. Can the Minister ensure that the Department for Education encourage people to think about STEM careers at the earliest possible level, particularly in primary schools?
Yeah.
Well, my honourable friend makes a very important point about diversity in STEM starting at the earliest possible age. I will, of course, talk to my colleagues in the Department of Education about doing precisely that.
Carol Monaghan.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. A number of my constituents who work in STEM areas have expressed concerns about female research partners currently in Gaza. Can the Minister confirm whether any discussions have taken place with colleagues at the Home Office about providing emergency visas to female STEM academics who are currently working in collaboration with UK partners?
Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm not aware of that. I'll happily ask the question of Home Office colleagues and write to the Honourable Lady.
George Freeman.
Madam Deputy Speaker.
Madam Deputy Speaker, delivering a national space strategy is a key priority for me and the Department. I recognise a strong space workforce is critical to this, and he'll be pleased to know that we'll be publishing a space workforce action plan later this year.
Freeman.
His answer and his work in this, he knows, as I do, that the innovation economy in this country is creating hundreds of thousands of new jobs, indeed 500,000 over the next 10 years forecast in space, agri-tech, clean tech, and bio, and in clusters all around the country, as the recent cluster map showed. Could I ask my honourable friend to make sure that the excellent DFE Future Skills Unit liaises closely with the DSIC cluster team to make sure that we're properly building in the actual job creation plans on the ground into those LSIPs?
Well, my honourable friend did so much to advance the interests of skills in the sector during his own many years of public service. He's quite right to draw us attention to the successful cluster map that was launched by the Secretary of State 10 days ago. The development of skills is a shared responsibility between government and industry, and we take our responsibilities in that respect very seriously.
Jamie Stone.
Madam Deputy Speaker, thank you. I want to put on record my thanks to the Honourable Member for Mid-Norfolk for having taken the Sutherland Spaceport to where it is well underway. Does the Minister agree with me that the skills we have at Donelan and indeed the nearby Thurso College could play a very large part in making this a centre of excellence for space launch?
I do agree with the Honourable Gentleman. This is a very exciting moment in UK space. The Honourable Member has long championed the cause of his own constituents in that respect, and I look forward to this year being a very successful year for him and the whole space supply chain and inspiring a future generation locally.
Rachel McLean.
Question number 4, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Start.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And with your permission, I shall take questions 4, 6, 8 and 9 together. We've made huge progress in connecting the countryside. In 2019, only 6% of premises had gigabit-capable broadband. Now that's 80%, and the UK is building gigabit networks faster than any country in the EU. This month, we launched another 6 Project Gigabit contracts to connect another 690,000 rural homes, the shared rural networks tackling mobile hotspots, and we have satellite trials for the very hardest to reach.
Rachel McLean.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I'm extremely grateful to the Minister for all the work that her department is doing. But my constituents in Inkborough have contacted me because they are really concerned that the infrastructure for the much-needed broadband is being put in poles in the street rather than underground as they were promised. Now, we must upgrade our infrastructure, but we must not damage our beautiful countryside in the process. So what can she do to support my constituents in Inkborough in making sure that this much-needed infrastructure is buried underground?
Well, I thank her for raising this point, and I agree that we want to build underground where that's practically possible. And it's important that she advocates on behalf of her constituents on this issue, because we have had issues in relation to poles where we encourage sharing, but that's not always happening. There seems to be an issue in particular pockets of the country. We are talking to Ofcom about this to see what more we can do.
Harrison.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. It is brilliant to hear about all of the progress. What assessment has the Minister made of the value for money cap in connecting up the hardest to reach households and businesses, of which I have many in my very rural, incredibly beautiful but sparsely populated Copeland constituency?
Minister.
I thank her for raising that. She does have very low gigabit connectivity, partly due to the sheer geography of the area that she represents, and so that makes it very expensive to connect. But it's also why we launched one of our very first contracts for Cumbria. There's going to be 15,000 premises that are going to be connected across Copeland. We are trying to stretch that contract as far as it will go, and in those premises that will not be reached, we'll look at other technologies so that we can get to those premises as quickly as possible.
Dr. James Davis.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I work closely with the excellent digital officer for Denbighshire, Philip Burrows. He tells me that Openreach can still impose significant excess charges to connect properties declared enabled for fibre. In these instances, people are unable to claim via the Gigabit Voucher Scheme. So can my honourable friend outline what steps she's taking to address this matter?
Well, I appreciate my honourable friend raising Mr Burrows' experience. He sounds like a very experienced officer himself. I would very much like to get a bit more detail about this because the type of property that he cites, where it sounds like they have access to a fibre connection, would not actually be eligible under vouchers. But I would like to understand a bit more about these excess charges so that we can deal with any problems.
Sarah Atherton.
Rossett outside Wrexham has little to no connectivity, despite the Ofcom checker predicting it has a good signal that significantly limits residents' lives. Ofcom acknowledge it's a prediction, but Building UK, Digital UK say that because the government relies on this prediction, there is little chance of Rossett receiving any benefit from the Rural Shared Network programme. What can the Minister advise my residents to do?
Well, I thank her for raising it because it actually highlights the challenge that I've had in answering this question, because the mobile connectivity figures I got for her constituency were extremely high, and it highlights the issue we have with Ofcom's reporting maps, which are simply not good enough. It's something that we've been raising with Ofcom consistently, and we hope to make progress on this matter.
Gregory Campbell.
Deputy Speaker, there's been significant improvement in rural broadband connectivity in Northern Ireland as a result of a previous agreement we had with the previous government. Would she take steps to ensure that small businesses in rural areas across the country can maximise their advantage to develop their businesses more so?
He is absolutely right to highlight some of the fantastic connectivity in Northern Ireland. In fact, I think it's some of the very best connectivity in the entire country. So I thank him for promoting that. I shall look into any spots that are still not covered, and will happily get back to him on that matter.
Shannon.
Deputy Speaker. Can I thank the Minister for that answer? Will the Minister outline how rural businesses can ensure that they have super-fast broadband capability to secure their businesses' viability in a very much increasingly online market? Thank you.
I thank him, but it's not super fast that his businesses will be wanting anymore. It's gigabit speeds, and thankfully Northern Ireland has tremendous gigabit speeds. But as I say, if there's any issues, particularly with access for small businesses, I'm happy to look into them.
Richard Ford.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Devon County Council is using its broadband clawback money to spend on anything but broadband. £7.8 million was intended for improving broadband in rural areas, including in villages like North Lee. Residents there have encountered numerous pledges in relation to poles, but still don't have full fibre. Does the Minister think the clawback funding for broadband should have been ring-fenced by Devon County Council?
Well, the issues in relation to Devon have been highlighted many times by one of your honourable colleagues on these sides of this side of the House, and it's something that we thought we had worked through some of those challenges. The one that he highlights is not something in relation to clawback that has been raised with me before, but I shall happily look into it for him.
Sir Chris Bryant.
4.8 million people live in rural 5G not spots. Rural areas are 7 times more likely to have broadband speeds worse than at base camp at Everest. 1 in 5 poorer homes have no internet to the home at all, and cardiac arrest phones and medical monitors still rely on analogue telephony. Why is this government such an abject failure?
Order! The House couldn't hear Sir Chris Bryant. Suggestion that was deliberate. Now, okay, people need to speak, but can't you speak in a quiet voice and allow Sir Chris to re-ask his question?
We'll just stick with the punchline, shall we? Why is this government such an abject failure?
The honourable gentleman loves to stick the boot in, but on this subject he's chosen the wrong subject to stick his shoe into. In 2019 there was 6% gigabit coverage. We now have 80% gigabit coverage. This is a massive infrastructure project and is one of the biggest successes that we have. So I'm afraid he's chosen the wrong thing to be snipey about.
Ms Twist.
Question 5, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Madam Deputy Speaker, the UK has an exceptional record of innovation in medical technology. There couldn't be a more exciting time for the sector. We're extending the length and the quality of human life and solving rare diseases. With the help of the Medical Research Council's £650 million grant this year.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The North East has a fantastic life sciences sector with 7,000 people working in the sector and a unique combination of medical and technology assets, networks and academic expertise. However, with business investment at record lows, what's his government doing to ensure our brilliant research and development is transferred into real manufacturing jobs?
Madam Deputy Speaker, the government, as the Honourable Lady would know, is investing in medical manufacturing. I'll be very happy to meet with her or businesses in her constituency to make sure they can access that funds. But it is only the good stewardship of our economy that has allowed us to continue to invest record amounts in research and innovation in the UK.
Long Bailey.
To number 7. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Ensuring regulators have the right skills and capabilities to regulate in their domains is fundamental to the effective delivery of our approach on AI regulation. To support this, we have established a central coordination function which will provide regulators with guidance on implementing the regulatory principles and help them to identify emerging risks and challenges. The £10 million funding we have announced to jumpstart regulator capacity and capability will form a crucial element of this work.
Rebecca Long-Bailey.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. AI in the UK still lacks sufficient regulation despite the pace of change and the risks posed. The government stated that they expect to introduce a statutory duty on regulators requiring them to have due regard to the 5 high-level principles outlined in the AI White Paper. So can the Secretary confirm if and when she will legislate for this and what factors will inform her decision?
Minister.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The risks when it comes to AI are still emerging, so the priority of this government is keeping pace with those risks to keep the public safe, and why we have an agile sector-specific approach, utilising our world-leading regulators, whilst the opposition keep calling for legislation on an area they don't understand.
The Secretary has agreed with me that one of the great importances of the Bletchley Conference was that it enabled international cooperation on interoperability and a common approach. And does she agree with me that this is something that will enable regulators to cooperate internationally?
I absolutely agree with my honourable friend. In fact, I call this the Bletchley effect, and we have seen action taken in other nations across the world since our world-leading first ever AI Global Summit on Safety.
We now move to topical questions. Stuart C. MacDonald.
One, please, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Thank you.
Keep it a bit quieter. It's not fair. We can't hear the Minister. Minister.
Madam Deputy Speaker, we've just celebrated 1 year since my department was created, and in that time we have pushed research and development funding to record levels. We have secured a bespoke deal on Horizon Europe. We have led the globe when it comes to AI safety, and we've passed the world-leading Online Safety Act and much more. And we have a plan to go even further. My department continues to drive innovation, to create better jobs and to push economic growth. This month we have set out our pro-innovation, pro-safety plans to regulate artificial intelligence, building on the success of the AI Safety Summit to cement Britain's position as a global leader in safe and trustworthy AI. And we're slashing red tape to free our researchers from pointless paperwork. We have got a plan to go even further and become a science and technology superpower. This plan is working.
C. MacDonald.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Higher salary requirements and visa charges for skilled workers, plus impossibly restrictive family visa rules, are going to put the UK out of reach for many early career researchers and scientists. So what is the Secretary of State doing to stand up against these crazy Home Office policies which will make her own department's goals for recruiting researchers and technicians virtually impossible to achieve?
We have a fantastic pull power in the UK with world-leading facilities, 4 out of the top 10 universities, and a range of routes for people to come here, including the very successful Global Talent Visa.
Rachel McLean.
Madam Deputy Speaker, recently after some storms, residents in Hanbury, another rural part of my constituency, were without broadband for 3 weeks. It was only fixed when I, the local MP, got involved. So what can the Minister do to make sure that these providers restore services much more quickly? 3 weeks is completely unacceptable delay.
Well, I'm sorry to hear of the problems that her constituents experience. The telcos are under certain obligations to Ofcom in keeping networks up and running. We are testing those resilience measures. Thankfully, Gigabit is a much more resilient network and has withstood floods, for instance, in York recently, but we hope to be able to have a much more resilient network in future.
Peter Kyle.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The government's own AI white paper says that all jurisdictions are going to need mandatory reporting of frontier AI. The United States has already done it. The EU has already done it. Why is she waiting for a Labour government to keep this country safe?
Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm not going to take any lectures when it comes to AI from the opposition, because we have a plan that is working. We are leading the world when it comes to AI safety. And I spoke just before about the Bletchley effect. We have the world's first ever institute that is doing pre-deployment testing.
Vicky Ford.
Madam Deputy Speaker, parents want their children to be safe. And many parents are deeply concerned about what children are seeing on their phones. Does she agree that sellers of mobile phones should be doing much more to verify the age of the user? And if the phone is being bought for a child, they should provide the parents with access to and advice on parental controls so parents can help keep their children safe.
Thank you. I absolutely agree with my right honourable friend's passion when it comes to online safety, and that is why we led the world with our leading Online Safety Act, which is the most comprehensive. I'm more than happy to discuss this matter further with my right honourable friend on an area which we both agree.
Helen Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The area between Cockshut and Welshampton in my constituency is one of the many total not spots in North Shropshire. Can the Minister update us as to the progress she's making with total not spot, and will she meet with me to discuss the progress of the shared rural network in North Shropshire?
I thank her for raising the issue of total not spots and partial not spots. So we have an amazing programme, the Shared Rural Network. There's 500 million from the industry and 500 million from government. We are going through all of those coverage areas which are shown wanting, and we hope to be able to make progress in her own constituency.
Dr. Luke Evans.
During recess, I took part in a cross-party delegation to the Interparliamentary Union trip to the UN for the summit on conflict and security. One of the seminars was about AI security. Now, I know the UK held the first ever summit on AI safety, with 28 countries coming together to put in guidelines. What further update do we have on bringing further countries on board to make sure that AI can be explored in a safe way?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I thank my honourable friend for that question. There is lots of ongoing work, including my conversations with G7 partners. Well, I know the Secretary of State is meeting with international partners. I would welcome a meeting to get an update on his conversations at the UN and what work is being done there.
That completes